Good afternoon, and welcome to Mountain Musings, Character Traits of a Good Husband, episode number 6, Leadership Style. Today we're going to look at our leadership style and how our leadership style influences whether or not our wives are able to respect us. Today I'm going to be taking the initial scripture from Matthew chapter 20, verses 25 through 28, English Standard Version. But Jesus called them to him and said, "You know that the rulers of the Gentiles lord it over them, and their great ones exercise authority over them. It shall not be so among you, but whoever will be great among you must be your servant, and whoever would be first among you must be your slave. Even as the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve, and give his life as a ransom for many." Matthew chapter 20, verses 25 through 28, English Standard Version. One of the great challenges that new leaders in the Army face is how to wear the rank or authority. This is especially true for new sergeants and second lieutenants. These are guys who are brand new to the leadership world, and figuring out how to wear their rank, how to exercise their authority is a great challenge. It's a hurdle that everyone must get past if they're going to have a career in the military. Uh, Sometimes people really struggle with this concept, and some never really come to grips with it because they want to wear their authority and demand the respect that they think they're due. And so they walk around endlessly offended at any slightest offense or lack of respect, and it causes them great problems throughout their career. Most people, however, grow comfortable with this, and they come to realize that the way you truly exercise your authority is through personal excellence. And these are the men and women who focus on being excellent in everything that they say and do, and they find that respect comes naturally, and that they do not have to expend much energy in seeking respect, because people respect them for who they are and what they do, and consequently the respect that they desire, that they feel should be their due, comes naturally. It's something they don't have to work for. And it should be the same for you and I as husbands. For millennia, men have leaned into the words of Paul, where he instructs wives to either be submissive or perhaps give their husbands respect. We've leaned into those, forgetting that those words were written to women, not really to men. Paul speaking there directly to women. We would be better served. We would do much better if we would focus on what Paul spoke to us. As an officer, like I said, I found that when I focused on being excellent, being tactically and technically proficient, I didn't have to worry about respect. My men respected me for who I was, and were very willing to show me the respect due my rank. In a like fashion for husbands, we need to work on being excellent, to being more like Christ. Once again, looking back at my Army experience, once I kind of embraced this concept of being excellent at what I said and did, I rarely faced disrespect. And usually, if I did face disrespect, it was not for uh, specific reasons. It was just, somebody made a slight error, and they maybe perhaps didn't notice that I was an officer and walking past or something like that. I rarely encountered true disrespect. And as husbands, we need to remember godly leadership is all about self-sacrifice. Jesus makes sure we understand this. He reminds us that uh, when we are being leaders, we're being servants. We are laying our lives down for others. And when I forget that and instead walk around demanding that Christy show me whatever respect I think I'm due, I'm falling into the worldly pattern. And Jesus expends a pretty fair amount of time in uh, talking to leadership, because he was training his apostles to go out and be leaders. And in a like fashion, he's training you and I to go out and be leaders. Specifically, can we be good leaders in our family? In Matthew chapter 23, he devotes almost the entire chapter to leadership. And so I'm going to read a rather long passage. I trust that you will bear with me, because in this passage we find a lot of really good lessons about what leadership is and what leadership isn't. So, like I said, I'm going to read a lengthy passage here. It's almost all of Matthew chapter 23, verses 1 through 12. So bear with me. Then Jesus said to the crowds and his disciples, "The scribes and the Pharisees sit on Moses' seat. So do and observe what they tell you, but not the works that they do. For they preach, but do not practice. They tie up heavy burdens hard to bear and lay them on people's shoulders, but they themselves are not willing to move them with their finger. They do all their deeds to be seen by others, for they make their phylacteries broad and their fringes long. And they love the place of honor at feasts, and the best seats in the synagogues, and greetings in the marketplace, and being called rabbi by others. But you are not to be called rabbi, for you have one teacher, and you are all brothers. And call no man your father on earth, for you have one Father who is in heaven. Neither be called instructors, for you have one instructor, the Christ. The greatest among you shall be your servant. Whoever exalts himself will be humbled, and whoever humbles himself will be exalted." Matthew 23, 1 through 12. And I know this was a long passage, but here Jesus devotes a tremendous amount of time on just the fundamentals of godly leadership, and he makes clear the things that we should and should not do. So I've extracted 4 things specifically for us as husbands, and I'd like to take a look at them. Number 1, we must never be guilty of "do as I say, not as I do." Whatever we wish our wives to display in the home, they need to see in us first. How can I expect my wife to respect me if I do not show her respect? She needs to see me humbly walk out my faith. Number 2, we need to not make their burdens heavier. As a husband, I exist. My sole goal as a husband is to make Christy's life better in whatever way I can. I should never hinder her. I should build her up and make her stronger, make her life easier in any way that I can. That's what a good servant does. Number 3, we must not do things for show. We must be willing to work in the background. One of the hardest things for officers to get through their thick skulls sometimes is the fact that they look best when their subordinates shine and when they stand in the background. My job as an officer really was to clear out all the obstacles and let my soldiers shine and elevate them so that they looked good. And when I did that, then I was well respected, and my leadership style was that of a servant, and we together as a unit did well. Number 4, and this is a hard one. This was really hard for me in the Army at times. We must not expect or demand signs of honor. In the Army, we give salutes, we render salutes, and we receive salutes, and we get certain perks according to our rank. But it's not so as husbands. I should never be the one to demand signs of honor or respect from my family. In some cultures, the wife walks behind the husband, and that's just the antithesis of what we as Christian husbands should be doing. We should elevate our wife. We should let her be honored, and we should rejoice in her honoring. These are just a few of the lessons that I see in Matthew 25 or 23. And I need to carefully examine my heart to check on my motivations when it comes to being a leader in my family. You see, often as husbands, as men, we really lie to ourselves about what our motivations are. And our motivations as husband should be to love and to cherish, to lay down our wives. In Ephesians 5:25, it says, "Husbands, love your wife as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her." That's a tall order. I should love my wife. I should love Christy like Christ loves me. I should be willing to lay down my life as Christ laid down his life. I mean, think about this. We're talking about a God who came to earth, who set aside all the wealth, all the trappings, all the honor, all the glory to be one of us, to be a sweaty man. And he did that because he loved us. So you and I need to do that. And we love our wives best when we, like Christ, pick up the basin and the towel. Right before he's being crucified, if you remember, he takes off his outer garment, puts on the towel of a servant, picks up a basin of water, and washes the disciples' feet. Again, that's a tall order for you and I, but that's the kind of love we need to show our wives. If we want our wives to respect us, then we need to be the first to wash our wives' feet. And I'm not saying that we necessarily need to get out the foot bath, but what I am saying is we need to be servants for our wives. Servant leadership is truly the only way to earn and deserve the respect that we so desperately crave as men. In Ephesians later on, Paul says, "In the same way, husbands should love their wives as their own body. He who loves his wife loves himself." Ephesians 5:28. If you want to enjoy a good marriage, if you want to have a wife who respects you, then love her. Lay down your life for her. In so doing, you will gain the respect that you crave. And guess what, guys? We're going to have a good marriage. I wish I could say I did this all the time. Sometimes I serve well, other times not so much. But I encourage you and I encourage myself to pick up the basin, pick up the towel, be a servant to my wife, and I will find, and you will find, that she respects you. She respects you for your loving servant heart. God built you for this. He designed you to do this. So go out and love your wife. And in an odd turn, love yourself.